All right, welcome to another edition of Agriscaping podcast. I'm here with a special guest. He's calls himself a Christian libertarian, environmentalist, capitalist, lunatic farmer. And I know one of the favorite authors of my son, who loves to read some of these farming books out there, went through one of his books, I think, in one weekend, and which is a pretty hefty task to do if you've seen how thick some of these books are. So who I got with me is Joel Salatin. Say hello, Joel.
Hi.
Welcome to Agriscaping, and thank you for being you and being so exciting to watch as you've developed a lot of what you've been doing out there at your farm. And for those who don't know, Polyface Farms is the place to find him. We're going to pull him up on the screen so you guys be able to see the Polyface Farms website. Definitely recommend checking it out and checking him out if you ever happen to be in the neighborhood. And how easy is it to come and visit your farm, Joel?
Oh, it's real easy. We have a 24/7, 365 open door policy. Anyone can come from anywhere in the world, anytime, to see anything unannounced. That's our commitment to transparency.
I love it. Not trying to hide a single thing.
It also keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, there you go. It's like, I know for my gardens, we do tours on a regular basis. We kind of have to regulate them because we live in an HOA environment. And so I can only have a certain number of visitors per year. However it works, I don't really know. I just know that I get in trouble if there's too many cars out front. But it definitely keeps us on our toes. It keeps it looking pretty, keeps everything the way we say it's going to be. It's got to look that way. And you probably find the same.
Yeah. Well, people are coming to see an aesthetically and aromatically, sensuously romantic landscape.
There we go. And we know when it comes to farming, you got a variety of smells that you can adorn yourself with when you're out there.
That's right.
So on that, I guess this time of year, it's good winter time for you right now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We're in that time where we're starting to look forward to spring, but we're definitely right in the center of winter. We've had a really hard winter. We've had extreme cold, like a lot of the country has had this winter, and I don't remember the last time we were able to ice skate for almost 2 weeks on the farm ponds, but so we got a lot of that in, and had not too much damage. Had one pump freeze, but otherwise we got through it okay. And now we're enjoying that nice, 20 degrees at night and 35 and 40 in the daytime, and that's a nice prime time of winter.
That's beautiful. It's the time to start looking forward to spring, right? You're on the trailing end.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, it's hard to believe that we're just about 4 weeks from March 1st.
So is this the time that you typically do a lot of your planning for your farm?
Yes, it is. We do a lot of. In fact, today we were in planning for we had a 5-hour meeting, I think.
Oh boy.
We do a lot of planning, and I've done the grazing plan for this next season. So, with all the rental farms and the different herds that we have of cattle, where everything's going to be, when, do a kind of a master plan. I mean, it's obviously subject to change, but at least you start the season with a basic concept of where we're going to start, where we're going to end up, and then all the fiefdoms, the subcontractors that we have running those farms know when they're going to have animals. That way they can plan for their year's schedule. So yeah, there's a lot of planning. Who's going to get chickens, and we've got people wanting to do some new things this year with ducks and sheep, and so plugging those in. And yeah, it's a very much a planning time. If we don't get planning done by pretty much 1st of March, we're going to be in trouble.
And so if you didn't plan, what would the next year look like?
Disaster and chaos. mean, we put a lot of time in planning, and not only that, but we have, there's numerous business things you have to plan. We've got people wanting to collaborate with us. Can I put this in your store? What if we, work together on this? I mean, I just got contacted by I didn't even know such an organization existed. Let me see if I can see what it was here. It was RVs for Recreation. It's a national organization that, here it is. It's called, I didn't even know the organization existed. It's called Tourism by RVers. Tourism by RVers. And they have 500, see where it is, 580, I think they said, spots that are not, in other words, they're not RV parks. They're places like farms and stuff. 580 locations across U.S. and Canada, and it's called Harvest Hosts, and these are folks that want to buy food from farms as they travel places and do recreation, and they want to know if we want to join, be a parking site for Harvest Hosts. Well, seems like I mean, it's not like you're an RV park. You get, one or two at a time, and of course they're self-contained. You don't have to provide any hookups or showers or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But winter is the time to deal with this, because in the press of the season, when these kind of things just pop up, you can give too quick an answer and either pro or con, and you better have it. You better get it doped out, because once the season starts and the sprint starts, there's not the time to be wrestling with big major things.
Yeah. Well, I noticed on your farm policy and stuff, the tag along policy.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess people always asking if they can just come tag along, but apparently that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. We've tried to see how we can make it work, even, charging exorbitant amounts. People say, I just want to tag along. I know I can, I'm a hard worker, and I know I can, work enough to pay for my, time. And the answer is no, you can't. Because what happens is you're asking questions. I've got my mind on this project that I'm working on, and instead I'm getting besieged with all these questions, and then I get to the far side of the field, and oh shoot, I was supposed to bring the pliers, and then you got to go all the way back to the other end of the field. So we have a very open door policy. Anyone can come and see anything anytime, but tag along, where you're gonna just spend the day and tag along with me, that's a whole different ball game. And we do what we call the lunatic tours, which are scheduled focus times. We do 12 of them a summer, so folks can come, and if they want full access, that's where you come. And then beyond that, we do the 2-day seminars, the Polyface Intensive Discovery Seminars. Mm-hmm. In July, 6 meals, 2 days. It's worth coming just for the food, trust me. And that's where we do a real intensive. We cram everything we can into. It's basically a 4-day. It's a 4-day seminar crammed into 2 days. But we're farmers, so we work hard, long days, and we don't take 10-minute coffee breaks. We just keep changing presenters so that we can go to the bathroom, but otherwise we just keep on trucking. So there's a lot of things that people can do. They want to be here with information and access to us. But yeah, we get about 15,000 visitors a year, and I wish I could. I enjoy people. I'm a gregarious. I'm an extrovert. And I'd like to, spend the day with every one of them, but you just can't. So you do what you can, and always have a welcoming door, and the welcome mat's always out. Anybody can come anytime.
Well, and when it comes to learning from you, obviously you got the seminars that people can come to. You got all your books and DVDs. Now, we talked last time, you were talking about your apprenticeship program. Is that still in play? Are you still doing the apprenticeship program now?
Oh yes, oh yes, and we've added to the apprenticeship. About 10 years ago, we added the interns. So now we have an intern program. We see a huge difference between the two. The intern program is 5 months, May 1 to September 30, and then the apprentices come out of the intern. So intern is like boot camp. That's where everybody starts, and then once you've at the halfway point of the internship, then you can apply for the apprenticeship, which is then 12 months. So so the apprentices become the first level managers for next year's interns. They say, in order to really learn something, teach it. You don't really learn something until you've taught it. And so this kind of two-step thing where this year's apprentices were last year's interns and will be the first level managers of this year's interns. Not only does it create continuity, but it also really ensures that those apprentices are master's program. So the internship's 5 months, the apprenticeship is 12 months on beyond that.
That sounds awesome. And I love that you creating that continuity, just like you said, and that accountability. You go to university. I remember interviewing a guy that was looking to get a position with us here at our farms here. And he said, well, I got a bachelor's degree. And I said, well, what'd you get it in? He said, corn. And I just had to laugh at him a little bit. And I said, I'm sorry I laughed, but he got his whole degree in corn. And I said, well, is that all you learned? Because we certainly we have about 200 different varieties of things we're growing here. Just knowing corn ain't going to do you much good. And he says, well, they did teach us about soy. And I was like, well, yeah, you cross. Okay, yeah, you when you're done with the corn, you do the soy. I got it. And I said, well, what kind of job experience you got? I was like, well, I worked at the university library a little bit. I was like, all right, did you read anything while you were in there? And he's like, no, we just moved books. And I was like, oh boy, I don't think ours is the right one for you, but thanks for your application.
Yeah, right. Wow. Yeah, well, that's your good old institutional educational system. Unfortunately, it's leaves a lot to be desired, and we do have a great deal of respect for all sorts of alternative forms of learning, whether it's apprenticeship, internship, the whole mentorship. There's a whole lot of ways to learn besides the institutional setting.
Yeah, it's kind of my whole view on accreditation nowadays is a little different than it ever was. It's like is it from an accredited school? It's like, oh, you know what? I just want to see what you can do. When it comes to farming, I'm not as interested in what you think you know, because I've been a parrot in high school and college myself. I could parrot back anything somebody said, but ask me 3 years later, I could still tell you the words, but I couldn't tell you why, and I couldn't show you what it meant. And it's so I really appreciate what you're doing. Apprenticeship program is that the way of the future? I mean, how this is all needing to be educated. I mean, you got your seminars, and then you got the apprenticeship or the internship, then apprenticeship, and then they can kind of move on to their own farm. Is that kind of where you see things going as the best way to educate a public on following in your footsteps, as it were, or being able to create a farm that it has sustainability in play?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are cycles of life. I think it's a good question, but I think you have to kind of put a parenthesis around, even if you do appreciate the value of apprenticeship and internship as a teaching platform, you have to appreciate that there are times of life when you can and you can't. I mean, if you've got, if your parents with 5 kids under the age of 10, it's probably not the time to go move into a cabin on a farm and do an apprenticeship. Not only for you, but also for the strain and the stress it puts on the mentor,
Mm-hmm.
to handle whatever the kind of discombobulation that comes into your life when you have that kind of thing. We have tried things like that, and they just, man, they're just they're tough. So we have a pretty stringent what we call it's the fit, and every farm is different. Their infrastructure is different. Their the farms are different. I mean, obviously growing and doing different things. Some are a little more dangerous than others, based on equipment and what's going on. And so for us, right now at least, this very well may change, but right now we don't even take couples. So if you are married or you have a partner, you have to come as a single, so you live in the in the intern apprentice housing. Again, we've tried not doing that, and what happens is the one person who doesn't live with everybody else, we have a girls bunkhouse cottage and a guy's bunkhouse cottage, and the one person that doesn't live there, it creates team dynamic problems, and because we eat together, we eat together our evening meals every weekday night. Well, you're going to skip the meal. Well, that's where we have our debriefing time for the day and talk about what's going to happen tomorrow. And if you miss that, you miss all of that not only fellowship, but instruction and catching up and time to question and all that. It just makes it difficult. So every farm has to define a fit for themselves, and that's not condescending. It's not discriminatory. It just is. And every person is not always a fit for another person, and so you just have to dope that out. But is this the best way to educate? I mean, the first reaction of a person would be to say, well, everybody can't come to your farm and be an apprentice, but there are a lot of apprenticeships around all over the world that that take people. And so if the question is it better to do hands-on experiential learning versus academic book learning in a case like this, then my answer is a pretty quick, I'm all for the experiential, visceral, practical, hands-on learning, because the book part, my goodness, never have we been able to put our hands so cheaply on so much information, right? So, the academic part, the chemistry or the engineering, the physics of it, whatever, those kinds of things, you can get that right along. What you can't get is the hands-on experience. And, one of the most valuable things that people need to learn today is that you can't Google experience.
Well, I Googled it today, came up with 10 million results. That's great, but not gonna do anything for you when you're standing in front of a tree needing to prune it, right? And
no, that's right.
It just doesn't work. Or you got a cow that's calving, or there's so many different things. It's like, you just don't know what to do unless you've gone through it a couple times.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's one of the most critical principles of mastery. If you're going to become a master, you need repetition. I mean, it's the reps. I mean, we're in the middle into the football season, right? And it's all about has that quarterback gotten enough reps or whatever, right? That's repetitions. It's how many times have you gone through the play? How many times have you practiced this? Michael Jordan used to say that every basket that he made in a game was backed up by 10,000 misses in practice. And that in our day of instant gratification, convenience, and I want it all now, and if a website takes more than 2 seconds to pop up, hey, I'm out of here. I don't have time for this. In our very impatient kind of culture now, that's a hard lesson for a lot of people to learn. I mean, the most typical thing is, a master, and people see this and, I want to be there. I want to be there, but I want to be there tomorrow. What are the shortcuts? How do you get there? Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book about outliers, and Seth Godin's written about, the purple cow, and they've all talked about the 10,000 hours or 10 years of experience, and mastery requires repetition. I think, for example, I can teach a person how to gut a chicken in about 15 minutes. It's not all that difficult. It's a process. I can teach a person how to gut a chicken in 15 minutes, but I can't teach you how to be a master of it until you've done a big chicken and a little chicken, and a hot chicken and a cold chicken, and an old chicken and a young chicken, and a chicken with a full GI tract and chicken that doesn't have a full GI tract, and a hot day and a cold day, and a rainy day and a dry day, and it takes all these different nuances, experiential nuances, before you can become a master. So it's the repetition, and what happens is, most folks can't believe that it can possibly take. We just don't realize how many repetitions it takes to become a master. So you get impatient and tired, and I'm just not getting this fast enough or whatever, and don't actually finish.
Now, there's been some things I've been trying to figure out. How do I evaluate my people? Exactly on that level. It's like on level of mastery. Is there a way that I can evaluate them? Is there something I'm looking for beyond just their skill and application? And one of the things I started to find is that when someone masters something, they actually ask questions. They ask questions without the fear attached to it. It's like, all right, well, how do I fix this? But they already know the answer, not like, oh, how do I fix this? It's like there's a different attitude associated with their level of skill when they've had a lot of experience with it, because they can just kind of process through it, and they're not afraid of something that goes wrong. And is that something that you found as well? I'm trying to figure this out. So I'm really kind of opening this up for a dialogue with you, trying to figure out how do we, as practitioners, really identify someone who's truly mastered something and help them understand the process that's going on inside their mind so that they can get there.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty well said. That's an interesting way to say it. They ask questions without fear. I think that's just another way of saying that a master is self-confident but not cocky. A true indicator of a person who's not a master is someone who comes across as cocky. I remember we had an apprentice one time who, at about 9 months, came to me, and he said, "Well, I think I've learned about all there is to know." And I said, "Well, I think you'd better leave by morning so you don't forget it before you leave."
I'd say, well, let me hand you a ladder and you can walk it up to heaven, because you must have figured something else no one else has.
Yeah, that's right. That's a cockiness, but but a master realizes that the more you know, the more there is to know. So there's a certain humility in being a master, but a confidence in having been here before, or been at least nearby this before, because you've been so many places around this skill, around this thing, that you're unflappable. It doesn't bother you. Another one, I think, is being able to quickly process and present a solution. A novice is often paralyzed with decisions, because there's not enough experience to process all the possible alternatives, the possible triage, or all the other issues. And so the master, a great way to look at it, I see, is I know somebody's a master when I know that they have an assignment, they've been assigned to do something all day, and I haven't even thought about them one time. I can be completely confident that whether the equipment worked or not, or whatever happened, they were able to punch through, make creative decisions, and I don't have to worry about it. That's when you know in your gut that the person has become a master.
Yeah, that's a good indicator too. I like that. That's real good. Yeah, and I definitely align with that inside of you never learned it all. If you're a master of something, you've never learned it all, and you're not offended by someone else's idea either. It's kind of like, well,
that's right.
If that works for you, and it's based on results. That's another thing. It seems that we're more oriented around results when we think that way. It's like, well, tell me how it worked for you. Well, tell me what's going on in your situation. It's not like, well, that's not how it works, and it's never going to go that way. It's like, well, then tell me more. I've got to do, like you were saying before. Every farm's different. And it's nothing against any other farm or however any other farm works necessarily, as much as it is just understanding, well, what's their real intentions? Who are they trying to serve? And just like my applicant that was a good old corn farmer, he had his intentions, and he kind of had some jobs in mind apparently when he started his degree, and it just doesn't fit my farm.
Right. Yeah. But that being said, we take people that don't know anything. Most of our interns don't come from farming backgrounds. Even I mean, we consider college agriculture degrees as being a liability, not an asset.
I'm with you on that one. In most cases, that's very true. Very true.
Right. And so we're happy to take a blank slate. That suits us fine. And so our main criteria, and this is of course what Dale Carnegie preached, and his foundation still teaches, is it's 80% attitude. And I like to envision it like a lever. You've got a lever out here. Attitude is the length of the lever. What you're trying to lever is you've got a fulcrum that can be skill, and you're trying to lift knowledge, or you can have a fulcrum that's knowledge and lift skill. I don't care where you put the fulcrum and the box, but you're trying to leverage skill and knowledge is what you're trying to leverage. And if you have a long handle out there with a great attitude, you don't need a lot of skill and knowledge to be an asset to an organization, whether it's yourself or some other organization. But if you have a really bad attitude, all the skill and knowledge in the world will not make you an asset to an organization.
So the attitude is the lever. Is that what I heard you say?
That's right. So
the attitude is the lever.
Attitude determines the length of the lever. Yeah, if you're making a drawing there.
Yeah, I was drawing it out on a piece of paper for myself.
Yeah, attitude determines the length of the lever on that knowledge and skill.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, some people have more skill than others, more knowledge than others, that sort of thing. But I like to view it as attitude being that lever out there on whatever. Atlas supposedly said in Greek mythology, give me a long enough. It was it Pythagoras, one of those mathematicians? He said, give me a lever long enough and I can move the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, and I can move the world.
The Pythagorean source of the Pythagorean theorem, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like that. That's a great way to look at it. And so how many interns do you even take on at one time?
We normally have anywhere from 9 to 11. So if you want to just say 10 on average is what we take.
Mm-hmm.
And we have about 130 to 160 applicants each year. So it's a pretty, it's a pretty daunting.
Yeah, that's whittling them down quite a ways.
Yeah. So I mean, we're thankful. We're very thankful that we get, and we have stellar. I mean, I can't say enough good about these young people we have. You would probably enjoy this little tidbit. Interesting. 20 years ago when we started this, almost all the applicants were 18, 19. They were, say, putting off college for a year or not going to college. But they were 18, 19, 20 years old. Today, well more than 50% are 28 to 33, and they're professionals, white collar, college educated, many with advanced degrees, and 5-6 years into this wonderful career, that
Mm-hmm.
they're supposed to be gonna have for their life, they just burn out. And I think it's a sad commentary on the U.S. that 80% of Americans, supposedly 80% of Americans, don't like their jobs.
Yeah.
That supposedly, as creative and innovative as we are, we can't make workspaces, we can't make vocations, we can't make careers that feed the human soul, feed the human spirit. And so that's just a major trajectory change that we have seen. And I don't know what it means. I don't know all the ramifications of it. It just is. And
Yeah.
I find it actually quite fascinating.
So from those interns, how many of those end up becoming an apprentice in the next cycle?
Yeah, we take 3 apprentices out of those interns.
And then is there another phase after the apprenticeship? You got the journeyman,
Yeah,
or
well, then,
where do they go?
Yeah, then after the apprenticeship, when we started this, we had a very specific goal. The goal was come here, learn, then go away and do thou likewise.
There you go.
Discipleship idea.
Yeah.
Right? But as our own business has grown, along with needs, and we're now managing so much land. We've got 9 properties that we manage, lease, rent, manage, and by the way, most of these have come to us. We have not gone to them.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of them have been people who came to us and said, "We like the way you make land look. Can you make my piece of property look like that?" So as that has expanded and increased, obviously we can't do it all ourselves, and I'm not 20 anymore. And so the next step from apprenticeship is, if you want to stay around and join our team, and obviously, we've got to like you well enough to do that, then you can run one of these farms. So that moves us then into the fiefdom stage. The old feudal fiefdom idea. Everybody wants a fiefdom, right? Lord, Duke of your own castle.
There you go.
Your own estate. And so these folks don't become employees; they become fully autonomous businesses that produce for us or do things, and they submit invoices to us once a month for remittance. And so they have to form an LLC, and then they bill us as professionals. It might be 30 days of cow move, 20 days of caretaking a group of pigs. It might be 300 pounds of broilers that they've raised. I mean, there's a million different things, but that takes the tension out of the historic employer-employee situation.
Yeah.
In that relationship, most employees think I'm kicking tail all day and nobody appreciates me.
Right.
And the employer thinks man, he's hanging around the water cooler a little bit too long and is on the time clock. Get at it.
Yep.
And I'm being taken advantage of, and that's why there's so much tension between employer and employee. But if you go to a shared risk, autonomous entity, then where the pay is based strictly on function and performance, like a commission, then suddenly, if I've got somebody that's supposed to move this herd of 300 cows every day, they're their responsibility, and the guy or gal, doesn't take the service tote, gets out there and there's a leaky valve, and doesn't have the service tote with them and has to go clear back to the shop and get the service tote and go back out there, they're not on my clock. And that really changes the perceptions and the potential tensions in the relationship. Now, people who love accountability, where they can, excel and actually, create their own compensation package, they're very much drawn to this kind of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
People who just want to put in their time and punch the time clock are scared to death of this kind of personal accountability system. And so the actual template of the relationship becomes part of a vetting procedure to ensure that you get really, really good people by just how you set up the relationship. So we have these memorandums of understanding, MOUs for short, memorandums of understanding, that describe, the duration, the expectations, us to them, them to us, the compensation, a non-litigation clause. Nobody can sue anybody for anything, ever. Anybody that won't sign that, we don't do business with. It's just a simple little, couple 3-page document identifying and clarifying our relationship and expectations, and then you're up and running.
Wow. Well, I definitely appreciate the non-litigation stuff. I don't know how many times I've stepped in the middle of, I've been called in just to have a conversation to help with a scenario that's going into litigation, and I'll sit down and be a little mediator for them a little bit and just kind of sit them down. It's like, look, the only thing that's going to be created from this point forward with attorneys involved in all the litigation is more distance, and however far apart you get driven is the amount of money you're going to be paying those two attorneys.
That's right.
And so
that's right.
And it's going to take all that to then amend it, and eventually you're going to come back together, and you're going to have to accept a conclusion that you can both agree upon. I mean, it's either going to be forced. I mean, you're going to be forced to talk again, anyway. So let's just get to that now, rather than create all this space and money and time.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree more.
There's just a lot of ugly out there for that, right?
Yeah, and anybody who's been through the courts lately and been through this procedure knows how. I don't know. I don't even know what the word is. Stilted or gamesmanship. I mean, it's not really geared to finding out truth. It's geared to obfuscation, confusion, twisting words. It's not straightforward. I mean, you would think truth is pretty straightforward, isn't it? I mean, it's either true or not. Well, by the time the attorneys get done with it, you don't know what truth is.
Yeah, things get so convoluted, and you start wondering. It's like, and then you realize you're not even on the same planet anymore. It's like, what was the original issue? And that's another thing. Got to nip those things in the bud early. Have the conversation, which is probably part of what you have in your memorandum of understanding, is that you communicate, right?
Yeah, that's right. The only thing we allow is arbitration.
There we go.
And arbitration is where I pick a person, you pick a person, and those two pick the third person, and then it's binding arbitration. You can't appeal it. Whatever they say it is, and you go on. That's the only thing we'll agree to. Fortunately, we've never had to go to that point. But that's the final measure.
I like it. So in your memorandum, so you've got one of these for your interns, the apprenticeship program, and then your fiefdom levels as well. You
No,
can
we
basically.
don't. We don't. No, we don't have one of these for interns and apprentices. This is, you asked about, what is beyond apprentice,
Right, next
and
level.
so an apprentice then can become one of these fiefdom folks. And the beautiful thing about this is that it enables you to become a full-time farmer with no debt day one. In other words, you can go from the apprenticeship to full-time farming, debt-free, day one. That's a beautiful thing. I mean, how many people want to farm, but they're tied into this, this city job, town commute, whatever, and so they crunch it on the weekends. They're going till 11 o'clock at night under the lights, whatever, and so we kind of have part of the design of this process is to make something possible where a young person can germinate as a farmer. Now, as you can imagine, some stay with us for 2 or 3 years and move on,
Mm-hmm.
something else, and others stay with us for years. And so, I mean, you're dealing with young people, so there's always a turnover, right?
Right.
Grass always looks greener on the other side of the fence.
That's right.
And sometimes they go away, and sometimes they come back. Oh, I didn't realize how good I had it. So there's that part too. But the main thing for me is that you can go through our program, and then you can germinate as a farmer, full time, day one, debt free, and be doing it. And you don't have to drive a good car because you don't have to go to work every day. You don't have to have good clothes because you're not dressing up to go. You can be 100% focused on this farm thing. I mean, I'm big on that. I think it's tragic that it has become the norm now in agriculture. So many times when you drive up to the farm and honk at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, nobody's home. Where are they? They're all in town at their town job to support their farm addiction.
Yeah.
And I think that we've got to be aggressive. I don't have all the answers, but I'm really aggressive that if you want to farm, let's figure out a way to farm, to do it. Why should this be the vocation that you can only support with some other income stream?
Yeah,
when your heart is really,
hobby, right?
when your heart is really at the farm.
And being debt free to start off that's huge, because I mean, I remember being up in Spokane, Washington. I was speaking with a group out there, and there's a guy telling me, every year, he's getting more acreage. Every year he's getting more acreage. He's finding more land to lease and stuff like that. And then I started learning more about it, and I said, well, how many acres do you have to farm to take care of your debts? And he says, about 800. I said, 800 acres. So, and then everything past those 800 acres then takes care of the rest of your stuff. So you got to farm 800 acres now. I was like, yep. I was like, my goodness. And so every year you keep adding more debt. And so next year you're going to have to do what? 850? 850 acres before you pay for the debts. I mean, it's like this model doesn't seem to be working for you.
Yeah.
If you want less work, more income, it's like, the debt's your biggest problem.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's huge. And there's a lot of misunderstanding, I think, out there too on how a farm can work. It's like you can play small and have a lot of money left over rather than having to. It's like, don't try to grow too quick, right? Like, well, I just want 1 million acres to be able to farm. I was like, well, go talk to some of those big acreage owners and do it with them. Don't assume their debt.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the word "with" there, which I really appreciate. There is great power in collaboration.
Yeah.
After all, we are Americans, rugged individualistic Americans, and farmers are certainly as rugged individualist as any group there is. But there is tremendous power in collaborative arrangements, and so one of the beauties of what we've put together here with these young people in their fiefdoms is they don't all have to own the machinery. So, one post driver, one front end loader, one baler, one machine can service lots of different acreages, and or even different enterprises. So there's this communal thing, and beyond that, they can cover each other's farms. Oh, I got to be gone for a wedding. Oh, I got to go. And this ability to share equipment and share the workload is just a tremendous financial and emotional asset in something that tends to be a fairly lonely vocation. Farming typically is a fairly lonely thing, and so having a community cluster has tremendous benefits, both economically and emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's and that's something that when you were talking earlier about the institutionalized ag students as they come out, one of the things they learn is all that debt, how to manage and process debt, and how to get your own stuff. And I've always been baffled by that. Rather than collaborating and how to doing the shared resource stuff and being able to just build off of that. It's like they don't teach them how to build it from scratch. They're always just teaching them how to look at it from a monster perspective, it seems, and it's sad because they miss out on a lot of the nuances or the realities of how things grow. Even, I mean, if all I did was study corn, boy, I wouldn't be learning too much.
That guy had a big influence on you, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I mean, I was baffled. I just sat there. I thought he was joking. I literally thought he was joking, and I had to apologize because I was laughing.
Yeah,
so
I have to admit, I've never heard of a corn major.
Neither had I.
I guess I have now.
Yeah, there you go. And it's it baffled me then, and still baffles me a bit now. And obviously, I do not recommend that particular university. I won't name any names. We'll let them figure themselves out. It's hopefully they realize that. It's interesting. I mean, we do a lot of work with the Arizona State University. They've got a new sustainability program. It's interesting. They'll have me come in and I'll be teaching out there at the university about sustainability, and they'll bring me in for urban farming, which I had to chuckle. I said, I don't know if I'm really urban. I'm kind of a little further out than urban, but okay, I'll come in and we'll have a conversation. But in working with them, it's some of the schools, they're kind of getting it. They're realizing that these students need a diverse applied education that brings into multi-facets. It's not just taking what's trending. It's talking about, what's actually working, and trying to localize things a little bit more. And I really appreciate that. They call it the Global School of Sustainability. And I think it's kind of funny because we're always talking about like really localized stuff. So it's like, all right, global, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Wendell Berry says there really aren't any global issues. There are only local issues. And it kind of dovetails with the old Chinese proverb that if everybody sweeps their own doorstep, the whole world would be clean.
There you go. And that's a good way to look at it as well. It's like, rather than pointing fingers on who needs to change what, change it where you're at. That's like if you're trying to lift a piano up a staircase, you can't complain at the guy across from you. Just lift where you're standing, and you'll contribute. They'll realize they're not lifting as soon as you start lifting. And
that's right.
And if you're not lifting, they're going to start blaming you. So all you got is a fight and no movement.
That's right.
Well, this has been a great conversation. I think we could just go on for hours here, Joel.
I think we probably could, and if probably in one more session we could probably finish solving all the world's problems.
Yeah, there we go. But the only effect we have is if we went out tomorrow and we lifted where we stood, right? And that's what I think we both know that's exactly what we do every day.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
We get up, we move it forward what we can. We have the conversations, hopefully inspire somebody to take a step. And hopefully for all of you that have been listening to our little conversation that feels like we've been having privately here between Joel and I, have learned something that might inspire you to take some action for yourself. Really look into it's like, are you in a job that you hate? Are you dissatisfied with that kind of space? And, really start looking for where your heart truly is, where you wake up each morning excited to go to work every day. And, I must say, I don't wake up every morning excited about what's on my plate to do, but as I'm doing it, I find a deeper meaning and sense of purpose every day when I'm in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the conversations that I'm always having with people around it. I love being in the business that I'm in. I'm sure you do too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
yeah. I mean, every single moment is not a picnic.
No.
But in aggregate, does it feed your soul? That's the question.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of times it's the challenges that we're faced with each day. It's like they're kind of fun. It's like, oh, I don't mind them. Like we were talking about. Once you get to that level of mastery, it's like you kind of, it's not that you're welcoming trial, but when it shows up, you kind of have fun figuring it out.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Aligning the resources, aligning the people, and finding the solutions to the problems that show up in your day.
That's right.
And then hopefully we got enough good people that we've had go through a program where we can trust them enough, just like you noted earlier, that we can just let them go and we don't even think about them. We know they've mastered the art and skill of what we've given them to do, and we don't even have to think about them all day. They just get it done.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Joel, any final thoughts or words of wisdom you might want to share with our followers here?
That's often a thing that people want to know, and my parting thought is always, don't quit.
There you go.
Just don't quit. Once you get on a path toward truth, and just stay with it. There's no harm. There's nothing wrong with failing. Failing is fine. The opposite of success is not failing. The opposite of success is quitting. So just don't quit, and then you'll get the experience. You'll find the mastery in your failures, and then you'll be ready to go.
I'm with you on that. That's great. And thanks again. You can find him at polyfacefarms.com. Find out more about him. If you happen to be in the Shenandoah Valley area, you can go visit his farm and check it out for yourself. And hopefully you're growing something at home yourself and learning how to improve whatever world you've got around you and the families and those that you want to support. So thanks again for everybody being on. Thanks again, Joel. We'll look forward to possibly having you on again at some future date.
Thank you. I'll look forward to it.
Awesome.